Hey everybody, I'd like to welcome you out today to talk about such a fun topic that I love, and I know it's going to rock your world. Hey, welcome to Entrepreneurial You. I'm so proud to be a part of it. Thank you, Hanika, so much for inviting me to be a part of this too, and all of you, thank you for being here. And so I'm going to open up this question. I'm not going to mince words. I'm just going to ask this: is that how awesome would it be if you had enough cash flow coming in that you can go quit your job today? I mean, how many of you really want to do that right now? If this is you, if you're the type of person you feel like you've got a passion, you've got this mission, you got something you can deliver to the world through a new business, but you're not able to do it because you got this 9 to 5 job stopping you. I'm going to tell you how to do that today. I'm going to tell you how you can actually create the cash flow, increase your cash flow both from a savings standpoint and an income standpoint, so you can quit your job as quickly and safely as possible. How does that sound? So one thing I'll tell you, I mean, I've been in business for about 15 plus years now. And in this period of time, like I've learned a lot. In fact, when I started my first business, I actually was working a job on the side, working full time, about 30 to 40 hours a week. And then immediately after going into my business to try to make money there and try to work, I actually worked a couple of years, in fact, before I could quit my job. And I learned a lot of things of what to do and what not to do. In fact, the way I did it, I quit too early and I didn't do it right. And so, if there's anything I've learned, it's that you got to do it right. In fact, it kind of takes me back to my ballroom dancing days. So during the same period of time I was launching my business, I actually was one of the nation's top amateur ballroom dancers. And so I danced on the team that won Blackpool, the World Championships, and everything of that nature. Um, and what was interesting is that I remember as I was starting to develop and grow as a dancer, right? I remember that there's a teacher that said, "Chris, you're good and you know the steps, but you're not quite great yet. You could actually be so much better if you just learn one little thing." And she taught me how to like actually change. She's like, it's not about the steps, it's not the moves. You could study these all day long and you still won't get it right. And she's like, in fact, you could practice this all day long. You still won't get it right. You got to understand. And she taught me like how to dance from my core, from my center, right? Using that center of gravity and everything else, how to use that in everything, whether I did Latin dancing or I was dancing the waltz or whatever, it all applied everywhere. And that's kind of what it is too. Like you understand these core principles. It's not about working harder because you can work really hard doing the wrong things and get crappy results. It's not about working smarter. You could study all you want, but if you're not working right, it doesn't matter. So it's not about working harder. It's not even about working smarter. It's about working right. And that's the thing I want to teach you today is that how you have to have a completely different mindset. Because if you have the traditional mindset about money or about business, it's not going to work for you. You're going to have a long, hard road. And I want to make it as easy as possible for you. Are you guys cool with that? Here's the thing. I love this quote by Mark Twain is that whenever you find yourself on the side of the majority, it's time to pause and reflect. Have you ever noticed you're not exactly the majority? Have you noticed that, if you're like me, like I got into business because I wanted freedom. I wanted control of my destiny, of my life, control of my time, control of how much money I can make. I wanted that ability to have that freedom and control to do what I want when I want. That's a big reason why I went into business. I knew I wanted that ability to use the best of my talents, the best of my abilities, and get paid top dollar for it. Are you guys like that too? If so, then awesome. This is exactly where you need to be. Unfortunately, this is not the majority of people. Most people are looking for that security. They're not looking for freedom, they're looking for security. If you want maximum security, I recommend going to prison because that's the only place you'll find maximum security. Security equals prison. Freedom comes from not having security. It's actually from creating something that other people won't create. And so you can't be on the side of the majority. In fact, I love the TV show Seinfeld. I remember there's one episode where George, who's typically a loser, became a winner for one episode. And the advice that Jerry Seinfeld gave him, he says, if every instinct you have is wrong, then the opposite would have to be right. And that's the thing is that the problem I see today is that when it comes to business and it comes to money, everybody has this flipped upside down mindset. Like, for example, people say in business, you ever heard them say, hey, high risk creates high return, right? You got to take risks to be a business. You got to be a risk taker. You know what? I'm going to tell you something. That's kind of bull crap. Like, when did the higher chance of losing equal a higher chance of winning, first and foremost, right? When did the 90% chance of losing equal a 90% chance of winning? No, 90% chance of losing equals a 10% chance of winning. But I guarantee you this, if you stay in the typical corporate American environment and that's what you do and you try to put your money in these crappy 401ks for the rest of your life like our parents and grandparents have done, or at least our parents, depending on your age, right? Um, if you've been doing that, it's not going to get you freedom. I know because I started out being a financial advisor. In fact, I quit being a financial advisor because I realized that all that stuff is just crap. It doesn't work. You cannot save your way to wealth. You cannot work a job for security and expect to get freedom. It's just not there. But everybody's teaching you that that's the answer, right? They're all teaching like, hey, you got to work with these companies and keep leveling up and you'll change jobs or whatever it is. Especially if you're a millennial, like you're probably expecting to change jobs over and over if you're trying to stay in the corporate world just to try to get a leg up and stay ahead of everything and stay ahead of rising prices and everything else. It's crazy. But the problem is everybody's teaching you all this traditional crap that has left the older generations, the generation that preceded us, left them in bondage. Because let's ask this. I mean, in America especially, I mean, and even elsewhere across the world, are people better off financially or worse off right now? Obviously, they're worse, and a lot of them have following this crappy advice forever. So I kind of believe in that definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. It's not the case. And the thing is, you got even financial people out there telling you to save and pay off all your debt and live on rice and beans and get that second job delivering pizzas. That stuff doesn't work. In fact, all it does is limit you. And then if you're trying to go into business, you got to think bigger, not smaller. You cannot be restricted. And it's not just you. Even goes on beyond you. Like if you start having kids and stuff, or you have kids, and I've got 8 myself. I've got 8 kids between my wife and I, and with our new marriage. And I'm telling you, like, you cannot pass on this kind of legacy, if you even call it that, a legacy of losing. We want a real winning legacy here for our lives. So one thing I've learned is that cash flow creates freedom. What do I mean by cash flow? It's this. You got your income over here, you got your expenses over here. When income's like this, expenses are like this, that's awesome. Expenses like this and income's like down like this, that sucks, right? Yay, boo, good, bad, right? We want cash flow. We want income being much higher than expenses. Now, we don't have to live cheap. We don't have to do that at all. But I've noticed that when you have more distance between your income and expenses, when you have profit, like in your business, you want profit and cash flow. When you have that, you have options. And when you have options, that is when you have freedom. People, they feel like they're stuck, like they don't have any options because they say, well, I'm stuck in a rut. I got one choice. Basically, I'm going to die. I'm going to run out of money, or I just got to do this, or I'm finished. But freedom means you have options. You can do this or this or this. If something bad happens, it's okay because you got this in place. Like everything, it gives you options, and that's where real freedom comes from. But you have less cash flow, it's just more stress. And I'll tell you, I've been there before. I mean, in the worst part of my business life, I was actually in the hole $16,000 a month and over $1 million in debt. And so when people say like, Chris, like, do you even know what it's like? Oh, heck yeah. I know what it's like to start a business with a side job and having that side hustle, so to speak, right? I knew what it was like to have that. I knew what it was like to start it wrong and suffer and try to figure out how I'm going to support my family on just my business, and I've been in a place where, even after being able to retire when I was 28, hitting the crap hole with the recession when I was in the hole 16,000 a month, and all of a sudden I went from millionaire to upside down millionaire and had to pay, and I ended up paying off just by using some of these strategies over $900,000 of debt in just three and a half years, and completely reversed it to where now I'm back in a place where I can retire again. And I just barely turned 40, but I even did it last year again, despite all this crap I've gone through. So I've been the highs and the lows. I've been all over, and I'm telling you, it works. In fact, it's not worked for me, but it's worked for hundreds and hundreds of my clients. On average, 34,000 a year they find. For some of you, that's close to even getting you to quit right now. For others of you, you might even be at a place where it could be much higher than that. But my average client over the last year has been roughly about $45,000 to $50,000 they found in just the first year alone. I mean, for some of you, that would be enough to get you to quit your job right now, right? But you got to understand some key things. So I'm going to talk about what's beneath the surface and then the strategies that go with it. Because you got to understand principles first, strategies second. If you just try to go for strategies and you don't have the right mindset behind it, it just bombs. For example, when I started in business, I did not know what scarcity was, but I lived in it. I was it. Scarcity is rooted in fear. There's doubts. For example, when I quit my job, I was freaking out. At first, I was super elated. For the first month, I'm like, I'm living the dream. I'm doing what I always wanted. Yes. And then it's like, oh crap, I got to pay my own mortgage. I got to pay the bills. I got to support my family because my wife was at home with the kids, with the one kid at that time, right? And so it was a stressful place. And that's where scarcity creeps in. And I'm telling you, scarcity takes money out of your pocket. Scarcity doesn't pay you a dime. Live in a place of desperation, of fear. Live in a place where there's doubts and everything else creeping in, of greed or impatience. If you're being impatient right now, that's going to drive away your results and make you work longer. So you got to be aware of these emotions. You got to be aware of this stuff. The flip side is abundance. Abundance is what I learned later on that got me to retire the first time when I was 28 years old. Is that when I understood that it's about faith, not fear. When I understood that it's about, really, it's about people, not money. It wasn't about just trying to make money. It was about how do I serve people? How do I show up to create value? I started to see it from that light. Started being more patient and stopped trying to hustle and all that kind of crap that you hear out there all the time. Like, you got to get there and hustle. No, not the way everybody's saying when you had to work 80 to 100 hours a week. That's bull. You don't need to do that. You don't need to succeed working 80 or 100 hours a week. In fact, I'm telling you, like, I've even been doing it. Like last winter, I was working 5 or 10 hours a week. It's only recently I started working about 30 hours a week because I got this whole new project that I've been working on that's got a huge passion, and now I'm hitting like highs I've never hit before in my business, which is fun. But you got to understand, you don't have to work 60, 80, 100-hour weeks. It's bullcrap. Now, a place of abundance, if you do this right, you don't have to go out and hustle. You could actually make plenty of money in your business to where you got to retire. You got to quit your job. Perspective determines action. How you see the world means everything. Now, with money and with business, you got to understand there's 3 different paradigms, especially with money. First, there's a spender paradigm. Obviously, what do spenders do? They spend. It's easy come, easy go, right? If extra money is given, then all of a sudden it's gone. It's like here today, gone tomorrow. Now they get a bad rap. In fact, everybody rips on the spenders, but it's not just them that live in scarcity. Savers also live in scarcity. These are the people that you can never pay off debt fast enough. You can never save up enough money. By the way, you'll never save up enough money from a saver mentality to quit your job. You'll always be scared. You'll always be in fear. You won't be in a place where you feel like you can actually do it. And even when you do, you're still scared because you wonder if you've done enough. It's never enough. And if you have that mentality that it's never enough, I'm telling you, it'll never be enough to get to a place where you think you're financially free. It's just never enough. Never enough money. That is where all financial advice is coming from, and even some business advice too. Don't listen to it. It's in the middle. It's stewardship. Steward takes the best of the spender and the saver, puts it into one person. Because stewards, they're trying to make things bigger, better. They're trying to beautify and amplify and make everything better that's around them. They take all the resources, not just money. They take their talents, their gifts, and everything that you have in a way that goes and serves other people. And that is the key to be able to create more money faster in your business. Not about, it's not about business plans as much. It's not about just strategizing your marketing plans. I mean, those things are okay. They help. But it comes down to the root of how do you go about serving people. In fact, let's talk about some of these 3 things. Here's 3 key principles. 1 is that money is meant to be used. It's okay to use money. It's okay to spend money. If you're that saver mentality, it's okay to spend it, as long as you're spending it in a way that's productive. Stewards want to use money in a way that creates multiple returns, right? For example, when I first started one of my businesses, I remember the first time I got a business loan. I got a $25,000 SBA line of credit, and I used up that $25,000 pretty quick. Now here's the thing: that $25,000 cost me about $130 a month. The question is this: do you think with $25,000 you could create and generate at least $130 a month of income? If not, you shouldn't be in business, But for me, it was like, yeah, that's a no-brainer. And so, yeah, I was able to take that money and use it in a way that generated more money. When I reinvest in my business, when I invest in, whether it be like my podcast, for example, I invest like a whopping $40 a month, but I make tens and tens of thousands of dollars a year just from that podcast. That's tremendously huge rate of return, right? By the way, you start thinking about 401ks, you're like, why in the heck would I invest in a stupid 401k that might get me 6 or 7% rate of return? And who cares about the dumb match? If I can go invest in my own business and make way more money than that, it seems like a ridiculous thing. By the way, people that are in business, People that are wealthy, they think that 401ks and all that kind of stuff, saving those kind of plans, is just dumb. That's what poor people do. Poor people that have really like no hope for their lives other than what they're doing in their job, hope that that 401k plan will do something. And by the way, just tell you, I was a financial advisor. I'm more of an anti-financial advisor now. And I will tell you, I've ran the numbers. You'll never be able to retire with a 401k. Your hope is to do what every successful person has done. If you look at the richest list of people in the world, richest billionaires, all have a business. They're all business owners first. Even if they're investors, they're still business owners. That is where your freedom lies. And so money is meant to be used. It's meant to be used in a way to create more return. So that it keeps coming back. It flows back in, right? The next thing, and this is key. I've mentioned this a little bit already, that dollars follow value. If you want to have more money, stop asking, how do I make more money? It won't work. It never worked for me in business. It hasn't worked for generations of people that have asked that question over and over. It's not about that. It's how do I create more money or how do I create more value for more people? If you can figure out like how do I create more value for more people and leverage myself and leverage what the resources I have, you'll find out that money can come in so much more easily. This first changed for me in 2006. So 2002 is when I started my business. At the beginning of 2002, I started as a financial advisor. Did that for 4 years, and I struggled. I worked hard to do that. But when all of a sudden I started to learn these principles, especially the principles of abundance and about this stewardship type principle, especially with dollars follow value, it's interesting. I obsessed over this question. I obsessed over it. I was like, okay, what do people want? How can I give them what they want? What are they looking for? Which when you're a business owner, this is like the perfect question to be asking. I realize that a lot of people I'm working with right now, a lot of them are actually trying to get out of their 9 to 5 job. They don't know how to do it. A lot of them have money. They have different ways to do it and different things that I'll talk about here later. But that's what they're all asking is like, how do I get out? Well, cool. Well, let me show you. That's what people have been asking. I'll tell you in a recession, people are just like, how do I get any kind of money? How do I free up any kind of cash, find money out of seemingly nothing? Hey, that's answers I've provided for as well. People are like, hey, I'm making more money in my business, but where's it all going? I provide those answers. It was by listening to people and what they wanted that allowed me to say, hey, do I have an answer for them? If it's not me, do I know someone who can help them with that? For example, I don't do taxes. I have great accountants that free up at least $5,000 to $10,000 a year for a lot of my clients. And so you start asking, what can I do to start serving people? For me in 2006, what it was is that people kept coming to me asking me financial advice. In fact, March of 06, I quit being a financial advisor. I said, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. I'm out of integrity. I quit. I will just do mortgages and I'll teach ballroom dancing. And that's what I did. But I remember when I started obsessing over this question of, well, what can I do to create value for people? What do people want? What can I give them? What can I deliver for them? What kind of information or connections can I give them? And a lot of people still ask me financial questions, even though I quit being a financial advisor. And the thing is, I had unique answers that people didn't normally have that were out of the box thinking. And it got them excited. And they asked me, like, Chris, well, what can I do? And I said, well, here's an option. You can do this. You can restructure your mortgage and do this, free up money here and go and invest with it. Or you can go do this or that. And I started giving them ideas. They say, awesome. Well, who can help me do that? Like, who could do my mortgage? And at first, I was doing them. But after a while, I said, you know what? Go talk to this guy. He'll do all the paperwork. I taught you. Here we go. And by the way, I would spend maybe a half an hour or so talking to them about those mortgage options. I would then split it with the guy. I would have the guy do all the paperwork, and for that half hour's worth of work, I'd make at least $1,000 to $1,500. And after a while, I was like, that was so easy. I remember making $1,000 or $1,500 as a financial advisor. I spent hours prospecting and doing everything else. But instead, these people were finding me, actually seeking me out, and then I deliver a solution or a connection with that. And I started doing that with other business owners. Pretty soon, with all these affiliate relationships, referral partners and such, I was making $4,000 or $5,000 a month, working like 3-4 hours a week. That was it. I mean, that right there, if that's not a 4-hour work week, I don't know what is, And that's all it was. And that's how I got started in this whole new line of thinking. Again, what do people want? If I don't have the answer, then who does? And by the way, I've had a lot of answers that people seek after, but I love that I have a team around me that I can refer to, delivering more value for more people that I don't have to deliver all that value for. Leverage. That's how I did it. So there's a bonus for you. That's actually a huge way to increase income is, can you find other people that you could partner up with to help do the work? with you or for you. And then you still earn the profits or earn some cash flow from that. So dollars follow value. Obsess over that. How do I create value for more people? More value for more people. There's more money in that. And then the last thing is that exchange creates wealth. The faster we exchange with each other, the more wealth is created. The faster you exchange service or products, the more money and profit and cash flow you'll create. And so if you think about this, like in the Great Depression, what were people doing? They were living in fear and scarcity, right? And were they spending money or were they holding on to money with their iron grasp, right? They were grasping onto it, trying not to lose money. Well, when they weren't spending money, when they weren't exchanging money, they weren't exchanging services and things like that, well, that person's not getting paid. Well, when that person doesn't get paid, they lose their job or they lose their income. And then they can't pay somebody else. And then they can't pay somebody else. And there's a huge ripple effect that's created because nobody's paying anybody, right? On the flip side, let's think of the 1990s when the internet really became big and people could order online any time of the day. There's no have to call now, dial 1-800, operators are standing by. None of that stuff anymore. It's all, hey, click a button. And so exchange became easier, and then the markets boomed. It wasn't because of stock markets, it wasn't because of politicians. It had everything to do with business owners being able to transact business faster. They were able to exchange money faster. That is the secret to a cool economy. That is the secret to having a very successful, profitable business, is creating how much rate of exchange can you create? How much speed can you create with that? I remember I had a tough quarter in my business. I was having a tough couple months. This is back in 2014. And I remember even though I had a great year in 2013, the beginning of 14 was like kind of crappy. And it was March of 14. I was like, oh, man, like I was venting to one of my friends who's a business owner as well. Like I feel like people aren't like exchanging, like they're just stuck. And then it dawned on me. I said, I know the answer. And so I hung up with her and I went to my computer. I wrote a blog post and I put it on my website. And I said, here's the 5 areas of business you need help in. You need help with technology. You need help with marketing, with sales, obviously with finances. And you need help with, getting a good coach or mentor, things like that. And I started linking to all the people that I thought were great in those areas. So usually like 2 or 3 per category. Yeah, I even put myself in the financial category, but I put some of my competitors in there too. And you think, okay, that's not crazy, right? Well, here's what's awesome. So I remember that month. That was March of 2014. I did that. Now, here's what's awesome. I started to send people everybody's direction, trying to get them, good PR and even getting some referrals and leads, right? Referrals back April of that next month. In April, I had my biggest month of business ever. I broke over $50,000 a month that month, and I was like, dang, that was awesome. And I remember thinking like, whoa, what happened? When I looked back at all the money I made, none of them came from referrals from those people. Not at that time. Now I've made tens of thousands since then from those people. But in that moment, none of it came back. It was because I, first and foremost, was the one that broke that cycle. I almost broke the dam and let the floodgates, waters rush through. It's like I exchanged with other people. And by doing that, that allowed the gates to open up for me. When I started to exchange and started to deliver and again try to create business for other people, more business flowed back to me. That's I can go on this one for hours, but I'm just telling you that if you understand these 3 principles, that money is meant to be used, especially if you're trying to increase and expand and grow your business. 2 is that dollars follow the value you create for other people. The more value you create for people, the more they want to pay you for it. And then 3 is that exchange creates wealth. The faster you can exchange, the more money and profitability you can have. Now, let's talk about this. This is the thing we try to look for. Like I talked about speed. It's about acceleration, not accumulation. Not putting money in your 401k for 500 years in hopes that you retire. It's about creating that freedom and that life now. And obviously, if you want to get out of your job right now, it's got to be speed and acceleration, not just saving your way there. It's going to take more than that. So here's some of the secrets that I've used for my clients that have helped them on average find about $34,000 a year. Number 1, you got to start tracking your money. You need to know what it takes to get out of your job. So many people that I talk to, they're like, yeah, I need to get out of my job. Oh, great. What do you need? Well, I don't know. I need to replace my income. Well, are you spending everything you're earning? Well, probably. Well, why is that? Well, I don't know. I just am. Track your money. I guarantee you track your money. If you think you're too busy tracking money, every business owner has told me that. I've found at least $500 a month that they're overspending in some way, shape, or form in different areas. Like $500 a month total. That's $6,000 a year, right? And so track your money. For personal stuff, I like Mint. Mint's got a great app, but it's also great on the desktop as well. You can do it anywhere. It's all downloading your information, like income and expenses. Like you see all of that in one place. Easy to use, and it's free. I like Mint for that reason. For business, you want to use QuickBooks and that kind of thing, right? So your business starts getting going, you want to use that separate from your Mint. By the way, bonus tip here: do not mix your personal and your business money together. Keep them separate. Make sure you have a business account and then like a business checking and a personal checking, but not together. Dangerous. Not to mention just a nightmare trying to figure out like how to get your tax write-offs and stuff. So huge one there. So track your money. If you know, I mean, I've had so many people where maybe they make 70,000 a year in their job, but they only need maybe 5,000 a month, right? Okay, cool. Well, that's 60,000 a year. Let's see what we can do to get to 60,000. Let's get it up there. And so that's the thing we want to try to focus on. So start doing that. 2, sell off your stuff. This is a picture actually of my dad's basement. My dad has this addiction to those crane machines. They pick up the toys, drop them in. He has this addiction to them. This is a picture of his basement when it was organized, by the way. This is a few years back. But he just collects thousands of toys. All this crap sitting there, but not doing anything. Here's my mantra. If you're not going to use it, lose it. If you're not going to use it, lose it. Sell it, donate it, give it away, anything. I'll tell you, like, one of the best ways I was able to pay off a lot of that debt is I was selling off my stuff. I didn't care. I can always buy stuff again later if I wanted it. I was like, no, let's sell off my stuff, get rid of it, get that flow out. And not to mention, when you clean out the clutter, it creates more space for you to create more income. It might sound kind of weird and uncorrelated, but it works. Trust me on this one. The more you clean out your clutter, the more it clears up space for you to create more income. So look for ways to do that. If you've got even if you've got like a house, sometimes a house with equity in it, the best thing you do is sell it. I had a client in Colorado. They had a property that they were trying to save up for their kid. Eventually when he got to college, the kid was like 11 or 12 years old. And I said, you got $80,000 of equity in this house. How much are you cash flowing? Oh, we net about $100 a month. $100 a month? That sucks. Sell it. They're like, yeah, but what do we have to show for, if we sell our assets, what do we have to show for it? I said, I'll tell you what, $80,000. And that $80,000, by the way, you can use 40 of that to pay off your 3 credit cards. That will free up $1,100 a month. That's $1,000 a month, plus you still got 40 grand left over to do whatever with. And they couldn't see it. They didn't want to do it. I'm like, okay, well, that's your funeral. By the way, they were both working. They were husband and wife couple working 60 plus hours a week each, trying to just make an extra $10,000 a month. Ridiculous. And so, like, get rid of the crap, get rid of the stuff, find something you can get rid of and move it. By the way, this includes ideas. I had a product that I kind of put on the shelf, like I started collecting dust, so to speak. Not a literal like product, box type thing, but an actual program. And there was a time when I was on Facebook, and there was a group I was in, and they were saying, man, it'd be so awesome to learn how to make money with my passions, or make money with my purpose. And I kind of told them, I said, actually, you can. In fact, I used to teach a program about how to do that. And a bunch of people started liking that comment. And then I put a post on there and said, how many of you would be interested if I actually taught you how you can actually, monetize your divine genius, as I call it, right? Like, what if you could find your divine genius and then make money with that? What do you think? And there was like tons of engagement with that post. So what did I do? 2 days later, I made an announcement that said, guess what? I'm doing a webinar series. It's a 4-part webinar series. I'm only doing 20 spots at $50 a piece. Go. And seriously, 24 hours later, all 20 spots are filled up. Made $1,000 from an idea that I hadn't even used, right? Something I hadn't even done that much with over those previous few years. But since then, I recorded it, by the way, just doing a platform like this, recorded it, now selling that program for like $250 online. So now I've made other money from it without me having to put my personal time and attention into it, creating another stream of income there. And so it was huge, not to mention people raved about it. So it delivered great value, and I also received value too. So look for things to sell or get rid of, donate, whatever, right? Debt. Debt is an interesting one because this one is completely opposite of what you think. Is debt evil? Is debt bad? We ask some people, they say it's horrible, right? They tell you cut up those credit cards, put them in the freezer, all that kind of junk. Hey, I'm not all about trying to rack up a bunch of consumer debt, but like I told you before, that SBA loan, that debt was pretty awesome. That debt got a great rate of return. I love leveraging debt when it's used wisely. And so the thing is here is don't fear debt, but do respect it. Respect it for what it is. If I'm looking for debt, I want something that gives me the lowest payment possible so I can create the most profit possible, right? If I'm going to use that, I got to make sure there's a return on my investment, that I have profit, that I'm making more than what the monthly payment is. Now granted, if I was given a $25,000 loan, it was $2,000 a month to pay that back, I would probably have a much harder time making that money back, even though I probably could have done it. It just would have created more stress. But being 130 bucks, that was awesome. Even a credit card. Even if I did 25,000 on a credit card, the payment would be roughly right about, maybe a little over 500-600 bucks a month, right? Okay, question is, even if it's a high interest credit card, could you make at least 600 bucks a month with that 25 grand? And that's different for everybody. So again, with debt, it just depends. By the way, one of the best ways for people to be able to quit sometimes is be able to pay off debt, not just investing money, but actually paying off debt. I had a client where she actually worked for a credit union. She worked in the accounting department. She was a finance person, right? And I started looking at her situation. I said, if we refinance your house, and her whole thing was she wanted to go full time in her business and quit her job, or have the option to at least, right? And she was making over 100 grand a year. And so I said, all right, well, we got a big nut to crack there. So I said, all right, well, what if we refinance your house and use this to consolidate and pay off some of these loans? And these specific loans had a very specific formula of figuring out which one's which gets the best return. And we did that. We ended up freeing up $4,268 a month. That's what? That's over 50 grand a year, right? So already halfway there just by restructuring it. And by the way, it took no money out of pocket, zero. We just had to rearrange some things, restructure it a little bit, and freed up tons of cash. Not to mention we saved them a crap load in taxes and everything else, and we haven't got to the investing part of it yet. That's the next step for them that could be even taking them further. But it got to the point where we could even get her husband to quit his job, which was pretty cool. I had one lady, we actually got her to quit her business. She actually wanted to stop working her business, or at least stop having the need to, and that was cool too. I'll talk about that in a bit. So another one is taxes. Now this one's big. If you're starting out in business, understand you need to understand taxes. Now, if you're working a W job, if you've got a business that's giving you some write-offs, make sure you go to your employer. You go to your W-4 form, where you have your exemptions, how many tax exemptions you do, and bump up those limits. If you're getting a tax return every year, you're overpaying on your taxes. You should not be getting a tax return at all. We don't want a tax return. That's just money being returned to us at 0% interest. We want that money now to work for us today. It's that acceleration, right? We want that acceleration. And so, I've had people who are like, oh yeah, I get a $6,000 return each year. $6,000, that means you're overpaying 500 bucks a month. Talk to your accountant, get him to adjust it, tell you which number to put it at so you can get more money every month, and that could accelerate whether it's paying off loans, it could be you put more money in your business to generate more income, whatever, right? We want that money now. And I remember when I was working my job on this, doing that full time, I remember they had Christmas bonuses. And so I would even go tax exempt right before the bonus came, so I wouldn't lose half of it in taxes. So I would do that just to get more money back. And my whole goal was to not have to get a return, to not get any money back at all, but to get all that money in my possession now and then use it. So the key is, again, you can't be a spender and do this. You would actually lose money, right? You got to do it in a way that, again, gives you more cash to use to be able to create more return. Cool little tips you can do. One, make sure you're logging your miles in your car. Keep track of the miles, because when you're getting like 56 cents a mile, right? If you do a trip, go on a trip and you travel 100 miles, you're writing off 56 bucks right there for money that you might have been spending anyways, or gas you would have been spending anyways. And so make sure you're tracking your miles whenever it's business related, and find a way to make it business related. I love taking what I call bizcations, where I'm going on vacation, but I make a business out of it, business trip out of it. As long as more than half your days have some sort of business activity during those days, you can write off the whole trip. the transportation, the lodging, the hotel, and even like the things you're like eating and things like that, meals and whatnot. You can write off all those things. So like, for example, I'm going to Hawaii pretty soon. In Hawaii, I'm going to meet up with people who are prospective customers or clients. I meet with people that are some clients and even just some friends that I know have businesses and start talking to them. And so as long as I do that, for the 12 days I'm gone, if I do that for at least 7 of those days, I write off the whole trip, which, by the way, I'm doing. Again, it's always about trying to do that. Not to mention we're scoping out, see if we want to make that one of our places we live in the winter time, and do our business from there. So there's all kinds of things you can do. You start having kids, you could pay kids. I had a network marketer that we actually got her to pay her 6 kids, save $13,000 a year with the same money she was already paying herself anyways. Even like things you can use your house for. I mean, there's things like corporate rent. You could save between $5,000 and $6,000 a year by paying maybe for the use of like one day a month, the use of your house. I mean, cool things like that. Seriously, it's awesome. All the things you can do because you're a business owner. Learn those things. And by the way, the sad thing is probably your account. If you have an accountant, if you don't have an accountant, you need a good one. If you don't have an accountant that's teaching you these kind of things, like I just mentioned in the last couple minutes, you probably need a new accountant. Because if they're not teaching this stuff, they're probably more of a passive accountant, and they suck for you. You want somebody that actually will teach you this stuff, not a guy who's not an accountant telling you some of this stuff, and you're getting more value from that than you've gotten from an accountant. So huge tips there, but again, I don't want to go in depth with it too much because one, I'm not an accountant, and two, there's just so much. There's one more topic I want to address, and that's income. Obviously, we could cut back expenses only so far, and then we can't cut back anymore. But income is the key. Now, see, we could save you money because, for example, I mentioned like that lady, we freed up $4,200 a month by consolidating her debt. Well, that lowered all of her expenses to make it easier for her to make the launch to quit her job, right? It wasn't about trying to make 100,000+ a year. Now we're already halfway there. Now, bridging the gap, we just save a little bit on taxes too, and that's great. But now there's this little gap here. This gap is how do we earn more income in the business and outside of the business? So in the business, I mentioned several ideas right there. But look for ways. Make sure your pricing is right. Make sure you're priced at least where your competition is, if not higher. So many people try to go low price route, and that's not the route to go. Being the cheapest is not good unless all you're doing is online stuff and you do like almost no management of it. If it's easy, great. Do low price stuff for people, but make sure it's low time investment for you too, if it's a low price. Higher price stuff, definitely the more time involvement, the more, not just time, trading time for money, but time and value involvement, the better. For example, I was able to charge more money for my processes as a consultant because I have a team around me. They're not just hiring me, they're hiring my team too. Like I'm creating more value adds there. The more value I can justify, not to mention, the fact that if I can justify having the average person save $34,000 a year, yeah, it's pretty easy to justify a higher price for that. Now, when I was just starting out, it wasn't that high, but I got up to that point as I got more and more confident in my own skills, and they did too. And so look for ways to become better at your craft. Become better. Find ways to do that better, more effective. Now, outside of it, I also encourage people to create other streams of income outside their business. I love creating passive and residual streams of income within the business too, and you can do that. Create active first, to start building in some passive or active streams in your business. That's low management, right? Like low time and that kind of thing. But look for other ways to do it too. For example, I mentioned that client that she actually retired just this last year from her business. Now, what did we do? Not only did she retired to Bali. She moved to Bali for the next year or two just to try it out. And she'll move back to the U.S. and try somewhere else out. And maybe she'll go back or try somewhere else in the world to live. How did we do that? Well, she had money from like an inheritance, a little bit of inheritance that she got. She also had, monies that from like IRAs and such. It was like, hey, why don't we take this money and make money with it? This is, by the way, why I don't recommend people, especially if you're younger, if you're a millennial, do not put that money in that 401k. Waste. I mean, I already mentioned that if you're going to be investing in anybody's company, don't invest in the stock market's companies, invest in your own, right? But don't put your money in a 401k where you can't get to it, you can't touch it for 20, 30+ years. Don't do that. You want the money in your hands. And so I had some people do like what she did was real estate investing. We got her to do some other turnkey rental properties that provide passive streams of income where she's not having to manage it. She has a property manager and everything in the U.S. for these properties. But what does she do? She put the money down and got a few properties, gave her an extra couple grand a month. And with that and with some other streams of income that she had, it allowed her to retire to Bali. I've had so many people. I've had somebody that even recently they're actually able to create within this year about $80,000 to $90,000 of passive income if they wanted to from the money they had. But hey, even smaller, even if it's starting with a few $100, that's a few $100 more that you can go in and again create more money, save it up, and then go and invest it and use it in your business or outside the business too to generate more passive or residual income. And I'm telling you, that is the key to freedom right there. Don't just rely on that one active stream in your business. I mean, you want to get that going, of course. That's got to be the main one in the beginning. But start getting some other streams of income as well, so that when you work in your business, you work in it because you love it, not because you need the money. And watch what will happen. When you all of a sudden don't need to make money, this is what I learned. When I needed to make money, when I was desperate, I had the hardest time making money in my business. When all of a sudden I didn't need the money anymore, I relaxed. And people, they relax too. And in fact, they relax and buy. I didn't have to sell them as hard. In fact, I worked less because I wasn't desperate for money. And that is the secret. That's the trick right there. So if you get nothing else from this, just remember that, yes, dollars follow value. But remember, too, that when you don't need the money, you stand more powerfully and you end up being like a rock star business owner because people will see that you're not just trying to make money off them. You're there to serve, and you're there because you love it, not because you need the paycheck. That is the power of what you need. So anyways, I know this is a lot of stuff. You got to really let this stuff germinate. Be sure you're aware of your numbers. Track your money, income and expenses. Make sure you're shifting your mindset around money and around business, just like we talked about today. You got to shift that. And then be able to do what's right for you. Do what's right for you and what's working for you in your life right now. Like I said, cash flow is what creates freedom. Because cash flow creates options. When you have more options, then you have freedom. And that's what I mean. Like you want to do the opposite. Don't do the same old thing. You want to just work harder or smarter. You want to work right. So everybody, hey, if you want to follow me, you can go to moneyripples.com, check out my site. Or if you like to listen to podcasts, if you like things online or while you're traveling to your job, I do like 20-minute type shows or episodes on my podcast called The Chris Miles Money Show. You can look up on your favorite podcast app, iTunes, or you can find it on blogtalkradio.com and find it there. So anyways, everybody, thank you so much for your time. Love and appreciate it. I hope this served you. I hope this created lots of value for you. And again, let me know how I can continue to create value for you. And hey, enjoy the rest of this conference. It was awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Have a wonderful, wonderful time. We'll see you.